peace, and welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. Here's Oddly Familiar episode 77. Our first up is from Murphy. They state, various sources claim MJ sampled Spyro. So let's take a listen. Here's Michael Jackson, I Can't Make It Another Day. And here's the Spyro the Dragon theme titled Rip 2's Rage. So where do we start? MJ's song was released in 2010, while Spyro the Dragon was released in 1998. And yes, it's the same sample. However, the various sources saying MJ sampled Spyro are wrong. This sample comes from the 1997 sound library by Spectrasonics, titled Distorted Reality 2: Darkness and Light. The sample in question is titled Blasting CA. You might see it under the name Eric Persing, but he just happens to be the founder of Spectrasonics. Our next up is a double whammy. We have the same Spectrasonic sample, Blasting CA. However, this time we have two different songs. First up, from CSGO, Lock and Load. And that uses the same sample of Rammstein's song, Romlied, Thrashterpiece Remix. When we start down the rabbit hole of a sample, we are usually surprised what we find. I recognize the CSGO theme, but I never made the connection to Rammstein until recently. To make a long story short, we have now found the Blasting CA sample on an MJ song, a Spyro the Dragon theme, a CSGO theme, and now a Rammstein song. Needless to say, this one probably goes deeper, and I wouldn't be surprised if more tunes used this sample, whether it be from a game or a movie. Our next theme today comes from the King of Fighters 95, the intro theme. That sample comes from the show Suspense, Fugue in C minor, starring Ida Lupino and Vincent Price.
Come along, children. Now we're going to have a little music, like old times. You remember when your mother was alive? We all used to play together. David, you with your cornet and Daphne at the violin.
First aired on June 1st of 1944, Vincent Price has an unmistakable voice. So when you hear it in King of Fighters 95, I'm sure some people knew instantly who it was. KOF 95 was of course released in 1995, 51 years after Suspense was aired. You may also recognize it from the Hideki Naganuma track titled Oldies But Happies. He used this exact same sample, and you can find that in Oddly Familiar episode 71.
Come along, children. Now we're going to have a little music, like old times. You remember when your mother was alive? We all used to play together. David?
Our lucky number 7 spot comes from the Tekken 3 arcade soundtrack, King's Theme. And that guitar comes from the Zero G sample library, Funk Guitar, and it's titled Cream Muff. You can also find the sample on Heihachi's theme, however only one note remains, so you gotta pay attention closely. definitely easier to pick up on the King theme, but it is used on both. Tekken 3 Arcade was released in 1997, and it's a great game for its time. The soundtrack has some very memorable themes, and in my opinion, it's probably the best soundtrack in the Tekken franchise. The funk guitar sample library is still available on the Zero G website. Its current cost is $49.99, which isn't too bad. The next entry we have today comes from Oscar, and it's from the game Thunder Truck Rally and Monster Trucks. Track number 4. That Oh and Yeah sample both come from the Lynn Collins track Think About It. This one is an old school entry that first appeared in oddly familiar episode 11. If you want an in-depth coverage on the sample and 10 more video games that use it, check out that episode. This song is among the most sampled pieces of music of all time, with over 3,000 songs using at least some sort of audio. One of the most well-known would be Rob Bass and DJ Easy Rock, It Takes Two, which appears in Action 52 on the NES. Needless to say, this sample appears all over the place. Our number 5 entry comes from a find by Bearsona. He mentions the New York stage from Capcom vs SNK 2. That sample comes from Rhapsody Vocals 2 by Master Bits. On a Mission.
On a mission, kicking knowledge on a different level. Makes the lyric like the bass with the treble. Take a deep breath, getting funky as my lungs release. A solid rhyme cause the switch is on the increase.
This sample library by Master Bits has appeared many times in the Oddly series already. One example comes from Einhonder and the Shutter Rap. Another example comes from Street Fighter III Third Strike. So I wouldn't be surprised if this library makes another appearance later in the series. We could probably do an entire episode on just this library. Capcom vs SNK 2 was first released in 2001. It looks like Rhapsody Vocals 2 was released in 1992. It's the earliest date I could find, and it's right on the CD booklet.
Never stop, so I continue on. With the verse, where it's right, where it's born. I made your imperfection, not indulge in the fantasy. Take a mile and endless thought to be like me.
Our unlucky number 4 spot is a sample we have covered before. However, we have discovered some new entries. Here's Racing Lagoon, a theme titled Warriors Battle. Another usage of the sample comes from a theme titled Tragedy, from Sega Superstars Tennis, which just happens to be the tragedy theme from the House of the Dead. This is another entry from the Zero G sample library, Funk Guitar. This one is titled Big Riff. In a previous episode, we covered this sample and how it appears on the soundtrack for Driver 2 on a theme titled Chicago at Night. The first time I heard this sample comes from the arcade game of Tekken 3, the theme of Paul Phoenix. So now we have a total of 5 games that use this sample. However, one of the themes is a duplicate. As we mentioned, the tragedy theme from the House of the Dead appears in Sega Superstars Tennis. We might have to do an episode on the Funk Guitar sample library if we happen to find some more entries. Up next, we have one from Blink's The Time Sweeper, the intro music.
31 seconds, and we're gone for auto.
And that vocal sample comes from the STS-51C space launch.
T-minus 31 seconds, and we're gone for auto sequence start. T-minus 25 seconds. The sequencer on the orbiter now controlling the final seconds of the countdown.
Another track that was also sampled by Hideki Naganuma. He used it on the Ollie King soundtrack on a theme titled Border 70. We covered it previously in the same episode we mentioned earlier, episode 71. Ollie King was released in 2004, and you may find it interesting, Blink's The Time Sweeper was released in 2002, so they used the same sample before Hideki Naganuma. The NASA space launch took place on January 24th, 1985. It was their 15th launch, and it was the first shuttle mission to deploy a dedicated United States Department of Defense payload. So many mission details remain classified.
31 seconds, and we're gone for auto.
T-minus 31 seconds, and we're gone for auto sequence start. T-minus 25 seconds. The sequencer on the orbiter now controlling the final seconds of the countdown.
In at number 2, we have one from Persona Trinity Soul, a spin-off of the PS2 game Persona 3, a theme titled Burning Men's Soul.
Check it out, I'm in the house like carpet. And if there's too many heads in my blunt, I won't spark it, I'll put it in my pocket and save it like rocket fuel. To everybody's gone and it's cool.
And those vocals are from the sample library, Rhapsody Vocals 2 by Masterbits, Swiney House.
Check it out, I'm in the house like carpet. And if there's too many heads in my blunt, I won't spark it, I'll put it in my pocket and save it like rocket fuel. To everybody's gone and it's cool, then I spark it up with my brother.
The vocal sample has been pitched down to closer match the tempo of the instrumental. It still seems a little bit offbeat, but maybe the composer isn't really a hip-hop fan. We have not mentioned the Oddly Scale today because samples are a clear-cut 10 out of 10. So every entry on this list, just consider it a 10. Persona Trinity Soul is an anime, but since it's a spin-off of Persona 3, we allowed it to sneak in. And because it's from the same sample library as the Shutter rap. Quick shout out to Mallow for the entry.
Check it out, I'm in the house like carpet. And if there's too many heads in my blunt, I won't spark it, I'll put it in my pocket and save it like rocket fuel. To everybody's gone and it's cool. Check it out, I'm in the house like carpet. And if there's too many heads in my blunt, I won't spark it, I'll put it in my pocket and save it like rocket fuel. To everybody's gone and it's cool, then I spark it up with my brother.
Our top spot today comes from GoldenEye 007, the laugh of one Baron Samedi. And that's the evil laugh from Cartoon Tracks Volume 2 by the Hollywood Edge. This was an easy entry to find because this one comes straight from the source. Mr. Norgate tweeted that the sample was a pitched-down version of this evil laugh. GoldenEye 007 was released in 1997 on the Nintendo 64, and the entire game is 12 megabytes. The game, the soundtrack, and even the sound effects all fit in. That's amazing when you think about it. Just to put this into perspective, I just reinstalled Red Dead Redemption 2, and it was 120 gigabytes. So there you have episode 77 of Oddly Familiar. We want to thank everybody who stuck around for 77 episodes. When we started this, we didn't necessarily know how many episodes we were going to do, but it just keeps going. Anyways, last but not least, huge shout out to gold level patrons Bear Sona and Quantum X. I am ICC. Thanks for watching. Peace.